Ciao, head of customer relations at Porsche Hong Kong, was at her desk going through the monthly report on service satisfaction, a routine put in place to ensure the health of the company's customer service. Flagged entry caught her attention. She decided to listen to the audio recording. At the other end on the line, a new Porsche Taycan owner was airing his frustration. Critical options were missing from his new Taycan. Critical options were missing from his new Taycan he ordered, he said. He was very disappointed with the dealership's handling of his complaint. It was obvious that it was a case of service failure and the dealership's unsuccessful service recovery, and she must do something about it. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever made a mistake? What did you do after it was made? Did you say sorry, make up for it, or try your best not to repeat it again? We all make mistakes, and that's fine. But premium brands like Porsche must act premium even when they make mistakes. Respected members of the jury, my name is Sava, and together with my colleagues Victor, Mina, and Tamara, we are representing University of Belgrade. And we are very excited to be here and present you how Porsche can put its customer to the central position and not repeat the mistakes it made in the past. So Tamara, could you please start with the analysis?
Yes, of course. So when we look at the China market, we can see that it has about 138 Porsche centers, which is a very high number. We can also notice year-on-year growth of incredible 56% in the first 3 months in 2021. This brings us to the conclusion that China is a very lucrative market, important for the profitability of Porsche, and therefore it needs to ensure high-quality service. When I say high-quality service, please notice that Porsche is categorized as premium brand car, which means that you always expect premium services, products, and all other following activities from premium brand such as Porsche is. But Porsche is high-quality premium brand, and we can say that even the best can make mistakes. So after reading our case, we find out some of omissions that occurred by the salesperson. For example, he didn't deliver the complete car due to the shortage of the parts, as Sava said. He also missed critical options from the new Taycan that was ordered. And at the end, he was not fully customer-oriented and ready to process the complaints in the expected way. So in order to see why these misouts happen to such a premium brand, we need to understand the whole process of communication as it goes. In this story, there are 3 main actors. So the first one is customer. He wants to order personally his new Porsche car, so he goes to the dealer or salesman and provide him with all specifications he wants to have. Salesperson needs to communicate with production site and check if there is possibility to make car like this, meaning he needs to see if there are suitable parts for this car. When he gets all needed information, he can place the order. Now, on the production side, it is responsible for them to predict the expected time of delivery, depending on the availability of car parts. Salesperson is responsible to communicate all this information to the customer and, let's say, to be the middleman between him and the production side. Now, when we know all the whole way of the communication, how it goes, I give my words to Mina to further explain why these misouts happen.
Thank you very much, Tamara. Now, the rest of our analysis was focused on finding all of the potential holes in the identified process of ordering and receiving a car that Tamara has just explained. Evidently, this process is too complicated and has 3 subjects that all need to both receive and deliver the information correctly in order to not have a misunderstanding and to have a satisfied customer with his dream car. This is why we have devised the whole process in 2 relations: customer's salesperson relation and salesperson factory relations. Then we have listed all of the things that may have gone wrong and resulted in an incorrectly delivered car. Firstly, Paul could have communicated his additional request in a way that wasn't clear enough for David, since he didn't understand what were his options. Second thing that could have happened in the communication between these two actors is that David didn't understand what Paul wanted to add to his order, and this could have happened because of the informality of the chosen communication channel. In other words, it could have been lost in translation over the messages and phone calls. Then comes the part of the process where David is inputting the order into the Porsche system and gets an estimated expected time of the production to deliver. Two things could have happened again. Either David has inputted the information incorrectly, or he lied that it was possible to make a change in the request, knowing that Porsche customers like to have custom cars, and there is only a small percentage of people that buy Porsche cars straight from the stocks. He believed that he could salvage the situation when the car gets to the dealership with compensation and can have a safe customer. And then the factory comes into the spotlight. There is a possibility that the change in the order wasn't received by the factory employees and that they also didn't understand the request correctly. Now, when we have evaluated the probability of each of them taking place, we have done the estimation based on the information we got in the case. And for the first option of Paul communicating the request incorrectly, we believe this is highly unlikely since we were provided with the order information from Paul's side in the appendix of the case material. What we also believe is highly unlikely are the last two options that are focused around the communication between the salesperson and the factory. Why we rated them like this is because of the fact that we are aware that this transition is automated and goes through a digitized ERP system. So the situations that may have happened with the highest probability all have David at the center with the possibility of him not putting the right information into the system being the most probable. What this means is that David has too many responsibilities. We know that he has to be in charge of sales as well as paperwork, but he also has the order and be in contact with the factory to check the availability of the car parts and estimated timelines. Even more responsibility is placed on his back since premium cars aren't a common commodity and aren't sold every day. We also know that because of this exclusivity, there is only one dealership in the Hong Kong area servicing 7.5 million people. To confirm this fact, it is even stated in the case that he was too busy to even go through paperwork with Paul. Now, I'm going to give the word to Sava again to explain what our proposal for this problem is.
Thank you. So the current process of ordering, which goes client, salesperson, and factory, is just not sustainable due to the overworked salespeople. And this is the reason why the mistake, this mistake has just occurred. And we are proposing the solution for it. Way to go for the Porsche dealership is restructuring. And this means that we are proposing adding one more stakeholder between the salesperson and the factory in Germany. That one person will serve as additional control as well as additional help for the salesperson who will not be in charge of everything anymore. By doing this, we are preventing new similar mistakes to happen, but also we are saving employees from the burnout, which is very likely to happen in the structured dealership previously had. In such a premium dealership as Porsche is, the service must be premium as well. So having a new structure, everyone will be able to focus to do its job the best way possible. In terms of that, in this restructured dealership, the question that comes to mind is what will be the duties of both new and existing employees? Let me tell you, the salespeople will be able to focus entirely on the clients, to be on their disposal for anything they need. They won't be in charge of communication with the factory or checking the orders. Those are going to be the activities that internal advisor does. So he will take the orders from the sales and double check them before sending them to the factory. Also, the internal advisor will be the one sending the reports regarding delivery dates and order status to the sales, so salesmen can further communicate it with the client without wasting any additional time. This new employee will have tremendous impact for the dealership. So it's very important to hire a right person. And the qualities that are needed for becoming an internal advisor are the passion for details, deep knowledge of processes and supply chain, firm grasp of numbers, and also it has to be a good cultural fit. However, as we've previously seen, even premium brands can make mistakes. So what happens after a mistake is made? What comes next? Mina, can you tell us?
Of course, Sava. So just to reiterate, we have proposed a mitigation for the problem, but there is still a chance that something can go wrong again. This is why we want to propose one more thing, a systemized way of doing crisis management. There are some key steps that could have been taken in order to ensure that a customer which was wronged doesn't get a premium treatment, but a premium plus treatment. And in this case, Paul didn't even get the basic package. This is how we see critical situations should be dealt with. Firstly, the salesperson cannot be solely responsible since we're talking about highly expensive goods and thus highly important customers. When a similar situation occurs, management should be informed immediately, and they have to be present when the signing of the amendment is happening. This is why there should be witnesses, and the story won't be completely based on hearsay, and also a certain amount of significance is given to the whole situation. Seniors of the salesperson, whether it is the dealership manager, the brand, or a country manager, they should also contact the customer and apologize in the name of Porsche. The next step is to have a set of compensation systems, so there aren't false promises happening, and the salesperson knows exactly how to adequately compensate the person based on the severity of the mistake. This means that there will be a set of rules, so whenever X happens, Y will be offered to the customer. Of course, all of these rules will be calculated and formed as a strategic step. And thirdly, the salesperson needs to be transparent in telling the customer what had happened. This is probably what is most important, and it means that the customer knows exactly what took place and there is no shifting of the responsibility. And now I would like to give the floor to Victor, who will talk about more of the implementation considerations and the effects of our solution.
Thank you, Mina. As with any strategy, there are risks that come with new things. We saw some possible risks which may occur and took into consideration the probability and severity of the risks. The first risk being that we cannot find an adequate person for the needed position. We will solve this issue by finding a recruitment agency that will help us find the right person to fill the needed position with the right skills. We recommend the Atomic Recruitment Agency, a well-known Chinese hiring agency. If the mistake is repeated, we will solve this by creating a specialized team that will be focused on creating a specific strategy to tackle the problem and be responsible of solving the low customer satisfaction. Also, a possible risk that we saw was that the salesperson feels threatened by the new advisor, even though he or she is there to help them with their job. As a solution, we propose the dealership manager organize a meeting with HR and the salesperson to further explain the new job division and that the new employee is here to help the salesperson and give them the possibility to be more focused on the sale part and the customer care part of their job. Looking over the timeline we have selected for this strategy spread out to a 2-year period, the last 2 quarters of 2022 will be reserved for opening the position and finding the right person for the job. After finding the right fit, there is an integration and training period that will occur in the first 2 quarters of 2023, where the new recruit will be trained in the specifics of the job and get to know what is going to be their job function in the sales process. When the new segmentation is tested and is proven to be effective, the rollout of the program will continue to other Porsche dealerships in China so that we can continue to raise the overall customer experience to a level that is adequate for a premium brand. When talking about crisis management, we need to do the calculations that will take into consideration the packages that will be offered to customers when the situation happens, and we will do so till the end of 2022. After the benefits and packages are defined, we need to establish a system that will be known to the salesperson, and by doing this, he will know how to handle every situation that he encounters. We're going to establish a system up until Q2 of 2023. Following the successful establishment of the system, we can start deployment to the whole Porsche system in China and further. Also, we need to constantly track and improve the strategy, which will start with the first deployment of the system. When looking at Paul's dealership, implementing this strategy will yield some qualitative and quantitative effects. As customer satisfaction is very important to every business, especially Porsche, by hiring a new person to help him, he will have more time to be customer-centric in his approach and increase the overall customer satisfaction, which will in turn decrease the negative word of mouth that could hurt his sales, as word of mouth accounts to 13% of total sales, and also strengthen the Porsche brand reputation. Looking at the projected sales of Paul's car dealership, we can see that with good customer care and the power of word of mouth, he can increase his sale by 56 new cars in the next two-year period, 22 and 34 respectively, a 3% increase in total car sales. This will in turn increase his overall operating profits by almost 1.5% each year, and he can expect an increase of 932,000 additional operating profits in the next 2 years. The main cost for this new dealership would be the recruitment and the salary for the new employee, which we have estimated to be around 100,000 annually. Thank you very much for your attention, and we are ready for the Q&A session.
Okay, thank you, Tim, for your presentation. So now we have another judges. Mr. Bruno Attayi, welcome to our competition. So it is now time for the Q&A. Mr. Bruno Attayi, he is the negotiator in Global Legal Services. Welcome. And now it is time for the Q&A section. Please keep, judges, please keep the questions concise and leave your thoughts and comments for the feedback section. And the 15 minutes countdown start now. Let's hear the first question from the judges. Judges, please.
Yeah, no, maybe I can start if I could, right? So thank you for the presentation, right? It was good to better understand your thoughts about this. My question to the team then is, what you're proposing is to expand, to increase the number of FTEs, right? And I suspect that this is a proposal that you looked at the considerations in terms of that with this, we also increase the operating cost, having an impact on the margins of each of the dealerships, correct? So elaborate further, why this is positive for the margins that Porsche would expect to get from the units sold in the dealerships. And I suspect that this is not for one dealership, and I suspect, as per the plan, that this is an important consideration vis-a-vis the number of dealerships and a number of perhaps of the person in the middle of this relationship, right? Many people would be hired, globally, if that's a strategy to be implemented, right? So elaborate further why this is positive from a margin and profitability standpoint for the company.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So specifically for this example, we have taken into consideration the specific case given, exactly the Paul's dealership, the single dealership that is in question. So we have calculated that by hiring an advisor that would help Paul with relieving him from the workload that he has, doing the paperwork, keeping in contact, he doesn't have enough time to deal with the customer, to have a customer-centric approach. We have found that around 13% of overall sales comes from the word of mouth, exactly. So if Paul has bad word of mouth, he can expect a decrease in sales. But by mitigating this, by hiring a new person, that would be an advisor with around $100,000 salary, we expect that by doing so, David would further have good word of mouth and refer Porsche to his friends and increase the number of cars sold.
Thanks. And maybe just from my perspective, again, just thanks again for the presentation. A couple of questions from my perspective. So why do we think you only need to hire one person for this dealership and you don't need to hire anyone for the other 137 dealerships in China? That's question number one. And question number two, can you maybe talk about, was there any other suggestions around what you could do, or was this the only option that you think to rectify the situation?
So thank you for your question. So specifically, this would be the first, let's say, deployment of the strategy. And if the benefits are clear, the expansion would further go on to other Porsches throughout the Chinese market specifically. But also we have found that the Porsche dealerships are very small. They have just a couple of salespersons. So we concluded that only adding one additional person to help would significantly decrease the workload of the salesperson.
So Victor,
thanks.
why? Oh, sorry.
No problem. And then can I maybe just ask Tamara then, what other ideas did you brainstorm around what other options to try and fix this issue? I'm assuming this wasn't the only option you considered.
Can I similarly just supplement a little bit, and you guys can elaborate further, right? I'm getting the impression that you think that the workload is too heavy, right? And then you're proposing a transfer of responsibility from the salesperson to the middleman. Yeah. Why is this? Why are you assuming that this is? And then supplementing, and I think you know the point that CRM said, right? Other ways to not transfer the responsibility, yeah, and fix the problem, you know, and where the problem is.
Okay, yeah, so I can start and maybe somebody else can add on. When we analyzed and read the whole story, something that always kind of came up is that he's doing all of these things that are all very, let's say, touchy. And it is very important to be precise when inputting the information into the system, when ordering, when giving the information back to the customer. And this is why we believe that it was too much responsibility for one single person, especially if there is only one dealership in Hong Kong. And when we are talking about such expensive items. And this is why we have decided to as you said, and that is correct, you understood correctly, we decided to release a tiny bit of workload and give it to another person. Something we have also considered is that there should be sort of an educational system with the salesperson in each dealership, but some problems were a little specific for this situation, and we wanted to give a solution that can be scalable and used in all of the dealerships Porsche is partnered with. And this is why we decided to maybe give a little something that's more specific and more tangible than just purely giving educational programs.
If I may add, we also considered to automate this whole process. But when we did the research, we found out that they already used the service, the SAP service, which helped them digitize the whole process, which means the dealership in Hong Kong, in China, in Brazil, in the whole world are connected with the factory in Germany. So it's the process, client, salesperson, factory in Germany. And what we found out is that the human work is required. That's why we considered and we base our analysis on the salesperson. We figured out in the case as well that once he said, I'm too busy to go through the paper right now. That's why we found the solution and how to help this person, because he has so many obligations.
If I can ask Tamara then a direct question. Tamara, why don't we just fire him? Because Porsche has the highest satisfaction rate of all European brands. So this isn't an issue like across all the others. So why don't we just fire him and then we save a lot of money? We don't have to hire all these extra people.
Well, we were actually questioning ourselves. Also, the same question was asked, but we believe that Porsche is company that doesn't hire just overnight someone, because you have just one person in that dealership store. So we suppose that there was large pool of people that been, let's say, interviewed to get to this position, and we believe that this person has enough qualities to be a good salesman. But reading the case over and over again, there were some insights that we concluded that this person just doesn't have enough, let's time to be fully oriented to our customer. So maybe this is just one person, but yes, as you told, Porsche has large number of satisfied clients. But we believe that in order to proceed with this, in this situation and all other situations that can happen like this, we need to employ someone who will be the middleman from between site, actually production site, and our salesman.
Tamara, can you move to the implementation plan, please? Where you presented the implementation per quarter, etc. So are you guys proposing here a solution for the Hong Kong dealership, or proposing a solution for Porsche globally? That's the first question. And second question then is, what is this continue the hiring process? Continue the hiring process throughout quarters, taking 2-3 years, year to. So what is this? Is this again Hong Kong? This is globally? What is this?
So if I may answer the question, the specific timeline is for the Hong Kong dealership or Paul's dealership, but by the continuing the hiring process, we are meaning that if it is seen as a good solution, to continue the system and the additional advisor role to other subsidiaries throughout China and maybe further on throughout Europe and the whole world.
And Victor, and why you're assuming that the problem exists in other countries, in the hundreds of the dealerships that they have for a premium product, and perhaps then just based on this situation in Hong Kong, you wanted to deploy a global solution that would cost millions for the organization?
So, thank you for your question. Mainly, this wouldn't be a specifically for one-size-fits-all solution. So if there is a concurring problem with the customer satisfaction that is seen by the top management of the Porsche, they can use this as a mechanism to solve it as a, let's say, solution to the work overload that happens in some Porsche dealerships.
But Victor,
if I can jump in.
Sorry, go for it.
Yeah, this solution will serve as let's say, prevention. We want to be proactive. We don't want to wait for this kind of mistake to happen and then to try to find the solution. We want to be proactive to prevent this kind of situation. If that happened in Hong Kong, that can also happen in New York, in Los Angeles, and we don't want to happen, because the damage of these kind of mistakes for such a premium brand are much more costly than the salaries for the internal advisors.
But Sava, can I just challenge then? If we look at the commercials on this, the revenue, you think you're going to make more sales if by this implementation. However, if I look at the case study, it says, as for sales satisfaction, the brand stayed within the top 3 positions in China. So there isn't an issue here. So why do we think this is going to generate more sales if everyone is already happy?
So
that's a really challenging question, but to answer this, we assume that people will be much less happy if this is continuing to happen. So we want to prevent that.
Sorry, can I chime in? Thank you for the presentation. That was really, really good. Something that I've been hearing. So we're looking at this specific problem, and we are trying to expand it to a global level. But then, has there been lots of consideration as to whether this problem is specific and where it fits in the bigger picture? As in, is it important enough to really change the global strategy of the firm, or has it happened somewhere else and actually there is a solution that exists and we should implement that solution rather than taking the specific and going to the general? Because I can see the plan to hire a lot of people and then to implement that multi-year process that could be then applied globally. The firm has a global strategy already. It has standing. The sales are working generically okay. So how did you approach that issue?
Thank you for your question. As we elaborated earlier, this is a solution for, let's say, this specific, as you said, case. But further on, if this case happens throughout other, let's say, dealerships, we want to maintain our position as the top leader in the customer satisfaction segment and improve to the top #1 position. So one of the let's say systems where we can do this is by when we see that there is a need for this, let's say, in other in other port dealerships, we can easily implement it, as this would be one use case where we could have, let's say, we can see the benefits of doing this strategy.
I get it. But then, so when we are talking about a use case, it's potentially something that we can test and then see whether it works. Now, you are planning on hiring people, and depending on what the regulation is in your jurisdiction of choice, it may be quite difficult to get rid of those people you've hired. If you see what I mean. If your solution is to increase the headcount, it has an impact in terms of your regulatory framework, but it has an impact as well on your revenues and everything. And then hiring people and getting rid of them in Hong Kong, in New York, or in Paris, France, may be a completely different problem. So if you see what I mean, you need to probably consider that if you want to implement this locally and then globally.
Absolutely. I would just like you to bear in mind that it's just one person per dealership. It's just one person who will double checking the orders and doing the paperwork instead of the salesperson.
And if I can just quickly add on something, please. I'm sorry, can I answer since the time is up?
Yeah, sorry, can maybe just a quick question?
Just one sentence.
Yeah,
that's why. That's exactly why we took that into consideration. And as you can see, the last step on our timeline is the evaluating of the KPIs, and this is why we want to start off with hiring just one person in the Hong Kong area. And then if it shows a success, we would firstly start with pilot projects in the China area, testing whether it should be implemented worldwide on a global level, or it should be something specific. But yes, we are aware that this is a huge step and a huge proposal. And this is why we want to pilot it and evaluate and do it gradually.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, judges and students. Thank you for your question and answer. So thank you. All the judges will now stay in the room to deliberate. And dear team, we will place you in the waiting room and bring you back for the feedback session in a few minutes. So everyone else, please kindly leave the room, and we will see you later for the results announcement. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.